In this video, I want to explain about the matters and the basic definitions of atom. So matter is some quantity which is having specific weight and occupies specific value. So here I wrote the definition, which is occupies some space and which has some specific weight is called matters, right? And the matters are made up of molecules. Molecules are also called as atoms. That's why we can write one simple definition of the atom is smallest particle of matter is an atom, right? So the definition of atom is the smallest particle of matter, right? And these matters are again classified into three types: gases, liquids, and solids. Now in this video I want to explain the basic structure of atom and atom definition, right? So atom definition, just now I wrote here, the smallest particle of matter is an atom. The basic atomic theory I am taking now, that is from the Bohr's model, or sometimes we can take Rutherford atomic theory. So the general atom structure should be like this, which consists of nucleus. The nucleus, I wrote with this like a dot symbol. I'm writing with dot symbol. This is also called as nucleus, and which consists of orbits. The circles I'm drawing here, these are also called as orbits. These are orbits. Because here first of all I want to explain the basic definitions, right? So atom is the smallest particle of matter, and within this atom, which consists of positive charge and negative charge. Internally it has two charges, positive charge and negative charge, both are equal. So the nucleus consists of positive charge. The protons are defined within the nucleus. So, or we can write one point here. Nucleus consists of protons, so the charge of the nucleus is positive, and the charge of the electron is negative. So electrons are revolving in this orbit. So these are, just I'm drawing this dots like this. These are electrons. Electrons are revolving in this orbit. So those electrons are number of electrons. Number of electrons are revolving within the orbit, that is defined by the standard atom structure formula. Now here I wrote the first orbit. Within the first orbit, 2 electrons are defined, right? And in the second orbit, 8 electrons are defined, and similarly we can write the next levels also. Just I'm drawing one structure here. 1s, 2s. I think you studied this concept in 12th standard. So 2p, 3s, 3p, 3d. And similarly we can write next level is 4s, 4p, 4d and 4f, right? So I'm writing up to 4th level only, because in this subject we have to take up to third and 4th is enough. So this one numbers explains the 1, 2, 3, 4. This explains the orbit number. So here I wrote 1 means first orbit, 2, 2s, 2p, second orbit, 3s, 3p, 3d, third orbit, and 4s, 4p, 4d, fourth orbit. And within that orbit, different orbitals are there. Those orbitals are s orbital, p orbital, and d orbital, and f orbital. So s orbital consists the maximum 2 electrons, p orbital consists the maximum 6 electrons, and d orbital consists the maximum 10 electrons, and so on. So here I wrote up to d orbital. S orbital consists 2 electrons, and p orbital consists 6 electrons, and d orbital consists 10 electrons. And in first orbit, only s orbital is defined. So the maximum capacity of the first orbit is 2 electrons. The maximum capacity of the first orbit is 2 electrons. And in second orbit consists both s orbital and p orbital. Second orbit consists both s orbital and p orbital. So s orbital maximum capacity is 2 electrons, and p orbital maximum capacity is 6 electrons, and finally within the second orbit the maximum capacity is here 8 electrons. So second orbit consists maximum 8 electrons. And the third orbit consists s orbital, p orbital and d orbital. So the maximum capacity of the third orbit is 18. Similarly, we can write like this. So this number of electrons of an atom is depends on the atom number. Number of electrons of an atom is depends on the atom number. In any atom, number of electrons is equal to number of holes. So number of protons. So the number of protons and number of electrons is completely depends on the atom number. If the atom number is 14, just I am taking now an atom number is 14, then this atom consists 14 electrons and 14 protons. Both are equal. 14 electrons and 14 protons. So protons are defined within the nucleus. So nucleus consists of positive charge and electrons are revolving in the orbits, in this orbit. So we have to consider the electron flow here, because now onwards we have to discuss the semiconductors. That's why I am taking now electrons flow representation. Right? So the electrons consist in each orbit, electrons are revolving in this, and first orbit consists only 2 electrons and second orbit consists 8 electrons and third orbit consists of 18 electrons. Now I am taking this example. One atom I am taking now. That atom is a silicon atom. The atom number of silicon is 14. Atom number of silicon is 14. So finally, which consists of 14 electrons. Then I want to draw this electrons location within the orbits. So first of all, it has one nucleus. First orbit consists totally 2 electrons. So from the 14, 2 electrons are occupied in the first orbit, and the remaining electrons are enters into second orbit. Right? So the maximum capacity of the second orbit is 8 electrons. So here 8 electrons are located in the second orbit. So totally the second orbit consists 8 electrons. Right? So in first orbit 2 electrons and in second orbit 8 electrons. Totally 10 electrons are completed and remaining 4 electrons are there. Those 4 electrons are located in the third orbit now. Those 4 electrons are occupies a third orbit now. So third orbit consists how many electrons here? 4 electrons for this atom. So number of electrons, maximum capacity is 18. But here only 14 electrons are remaining. So those electrons occupies in the third orbit. Those are located in the third orbit. So for silicon, third orbit consists of 4 electrons here. And from this here, I want to write another new definition. The definition is a valency orbit. And from the atom structure, the outermost orbit is called valency orbit. So now here for this structure, this orbit is called valence orbit. Right? So valence orbit. The electrons in the valence orbit are called valency electrons. Right? So valence orbit is nothing but outermost orbit. Outermost orbit. Now for the silicon, the outermost orbit is the third orbit. For silicon atom, outermost orbit is the third orbit because only 14 electrons are there, and the third orbit consists totally 4 electrons. So that's why silicon consists of number of valence electrons. Number of valence electrons. Number of valence electrons are here how many? 4. Outermost orbit electrons, those are also called as valence electrons. So valence electrons are bonding electrons. Now here I explain the basic atom structure and number of maximum capacity of the each orbit and what is a valence orbit. Valence orbit is nothing but outermost orbit, and what is valence electrons. The outermost orbit electrons are called valence electrons. So please take this now.